How this one pans out. Supersport has been owned by Michael Dunlop over the recent years. 11 of his 25 TT wins have come in this class. 15 podiums and 11 wins.
Yeah, his first win I witnessed in '09 on his own Yamaha that he mechanicked himself, and that was in sketchy conditions, and he just went and he won it. He was having it basically.
The last time Peter Hickman won Supersport here was 2019. Of course, Dean Harrison has been a Supersport victor here as well, but that was back in 2018.
Yep, Pete's a big lad, but I think that 765 Triumph Triple might just suit him a little bit more by way of mid-range and guts out of the engine. That three-cylinder will give more in terms of mid-range and guts than a four-cylinder, high-revving four-cylinder, so maybe that's going to suit him. I think it'll really suit Michael. I think he's going to love the triple.
Well, we're about to find out because we are seconds away from qualifying beginning in TT 2024. We had a few delays, but the sun is shining as we enter the evening, and the going to get a glimpse at sector and lap times. Josh Brooks, the Australian, the two-time British Superbike champion, looking to become a TT winner.
And the lads mentioned it, he's no stranger to Supersport bikes. He's won Supersport rounds, finished 7th in the world, 4th in the World Championship. Anyway, high in the World Championship. He knows what these bikes are going to do.
That's how he made his name.
Correct.
Initially was Supersport when he first burst on, and he's ready for his tap on the shoulder as he's about to head down Glen Crutchery Road, down through Bray Hill, over Agos Leap, and away we go to start qualifying for 2024. Number 7, Josh Brooks on the Boyce Precision Engineering by Russell Racing Yamaha. Yeah, next up is Dino.
Yeah, Dino sets off, and no dash stuff, no massive slipping of the clutch off of there. They don't want to give the bikes too hard of a time this early in the week.
Nice little reference that though for Dean, isn't it? Josh up ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. And there'll be a little bit of that going on, you know. You want somebody in front that's not going to hold you up anywhere, but actually might just kind of egg you on and get you going a little bit.
Michael Rutt's head away on his Super Twin. Here is James Hillier on the Bournemouth Kawasaki, the 30th anniversary Kawasaki colour scheme.
Yeah, beautiful. Love that retro scheme.
Here is Michael Rutter. Earlier on we had untimed practice. I believe there's been one or two that have had a couple of stopwatches out from untimed practice earlier on. The fastest rider from untimed earlier was Jamie Coward. That's on the big bike, but I'm just going to sling that one out there. There's Paul Jordan.
First time we've seen him.
Yeah. Lovely guy, Northern Irish. He's going to be the first to set them all off when we go racing next week.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still doing the day job or whether he's a professional racer, but he's a roofer. He's Paul, and one of the most engaging and kind of charismatic people in the paddock.
Yeah, he's switched teams, Jackson Racing for this year. Here's Hickey. It has not been the class that he's come out victorious on of late. It's all been about the big bikes for Peter Hickman. Does that change again here? We heard that brilliant stat that Matt came up with earlier on of 25 of the last 26 solo races going the way of either Hickman, Dunlop or Dean Harrison. Well, in the last few years, of course, we've had COVID interruptions, etc. But the last rider to win a solo event that wasn't Peter Hickman or Michael Dunlop was Dean Harrison's senior win back in 2019.
Peter Hickman flat on the tank and flat out on the throttle or Agos Leap.
And this is the first braking zone, isn't it?
Yep, down into Quarterbridge. Yep, still new tyres, so you take it a little bit steady. And then out past the playing fields and out towards Braddon Bridge, then Union Mills.
And Mark, we're going to bring you in here. Despite the fact that it is day one, we're not going to see, well, we don't think we're going to see lap records broken here today, but it does take on a different, you are in a different game now, going from that untimed practice, but now heading into qualifying.
Yeah, without a doubt, like Peter was saying, the brake pads are bedded in and their heads are up to speed. And, you can actually see what everyone's attitude is. A lot of times guys want to set the bar really, really early, if not in lap time, in their body English and how hard they look like they're trying out there.
If
Yeah, I think a line in the sand and a little bit of a market for the others is what most of them at the top end will look for.
Yeah, it's also in their own heads. You know, they want to prove themselves that they've shown up prepared, and now they're executing.
That's the fascinating thing about the TT, isn't it? You're sort of, there's head games going on with other riders, but I mean, ultimately, you're trying to make yourself comfortable as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's always said that the TT's a time trial. You set up individually, but it actually isn't. This is a race where you can get into somebody's head or out of it, just like any other race.
You also want to bond with the machine. You know, you actually want to become. You want to. It's a strange thing, but you have such a relationship with this at this track with your machine. You want to get out early, check the suspension and the brakes and stuff in the range of going as fast as it can go, so you can get the suspension working through the biggest bumps, Ginger Hall or Ramsey, in the range it's going to be.
That's a fact. If you, even on short circuits, but especially if you set the bike up for a slower time than what you expect to do in a race, it's a different bike when you get to the limit.
Exactly. Actually, Michael Dunlop at the end of the senior last year, he had anticipated going a little bit faster and set the bike up accordingly, and it backfired completely. It was tens of seconds behind at the end.
So much was talked about in the build-up to the TT 2024 about whether or not Peter Hickman was fit enough, whether Michael Dunlop was fit enough, and so often in the past we've turned up here, and when it gets serious you get to see what Peter Hickman and Michael Dunlop have got to bring to the table, and I think we're going to get our first glimpse here tonight of whether or not Dunlop or Hickman are in fact struggling at all.
Yeah, in both cases, with regard to Michael Dunlop and Hickman, it seems like when they want to win, they find a way to win. And it's almost like a decision.
Yeah, we were discussing Peter Hickman's and Michael Dunlop's troubles, injury troubles before they came to the TT, but both of them, you know, the types of riders who can put that behind it.
Still a little wet patch.
It is, yeah, that's it, Glenhelen.
We're going to get our first sector up, but just a reminder to those of you that aren't aware, in fact the first few are through sectors. Dean Harrison was the first through Glenhelen. There's 6 in total all the way to the line. Glenhelen's your first marker before we then head over to Ballath, and then the hairpin, Bungalow and Cronknimona. Dean Harrison the fastest through sector 1. There's 3 riders that have gone through sector 1 so far, and it's Dean Harrison, Jamie Coward, James Hillier has just gone 3rd, and Josh Brooks 4th. And there you go, sector time, Glenhelen, Dean Harrison 2.1 seconds quicker than Jamie Coward was.
He likes that sector, of course. It's only the first lap of the week, but it's
always
not
been
like
strong in that first sector, hasn't it?
Absolutely, and it's just kind of funny that he is, once again, with all the new factors involved, he's also #1 in the first lap.
A lot of people have picked out Dean Harrison as a multi-race winner over the next couple of weeks, and you would not put it past him as Paul Jordan heads through, 5th quickest through sector 1, 3.3 down.
Yep, up past Sarah's Cottage and up onto Cronky.
Davey Todd is the closest to Harrison through Glenhelen, just a 10th down.
Yeah.
So 4.5 minutes to that first sector at Glenhelen, and Davey Todd at 10th down on the power tool-made Ducati.
I wouldn't bet against Davey Todd for this entire 49.
Yeah, I was it. The only kind of question mark I have is that bike for these rules, because it's a 955, has to be kind of artificially, what's the word? Almost slowed down, because it would be too quick. It's just bigger CCs. So you just wonder whether it's gonna have the top end on the longer straights.
It's been windy everywhere else, like Daytona 200 and other Supersport events. You know,
under the same rules.
Actually, I don't know. It's good.
There you go.
Michael Dunlop.
I don't know either.
Michael Dunlop goes through Glenhelen as these two ponder, and Dunlop is 3rd quickest through there, a 1/4 of a second down on Dean Harrison. James Hind, a rider that we mentioned earlier that you will have to keep an eye on, the 24-year-old on the Suzuki 750, fast rider, making his name. In fact, maybe we'll be mentioning his name an awful lot more. He's 19th out, he'll be in racing, and he's 4th quickest through that first sector. Remarkable. Coward there we're now watching. Let's get down to Steve Plater ahead of them coming through Kurt Michael. Down to you, Steve.
Yeah, they're showing form, mate, here through Kurt Michael. They're pushing really hard, and obviously showing some form now. There's the various guys coming through. Obviously I'm listening to what you guys are saying as well, with Toddy and Dean Harrison being on the bike, but they all look to be pushing now. Whereas earlier on in free practice, kind of flowing and finding their feet, finding their way around the whole TT course, but now it's down to business. It's looking good, and I think we're going to see some much faster times now. Back to you guys. Oh, hold on. hold on, who we got coming now? We've got John McGuinness. Here we go, I can hear somebody, yep, John McGuinness coming through, here we go. I said earlier on the big bikes, McGuinness, here he comes. He's looking really smooth and really sweet. Now obviously John on the big bikes is incredible, it really is, but he does a good job on anything. Now Hutchie looked to be taking his time earlier on, especially through Kurt Michael, but he's building up. Obviously he's missed 2 TTs, he's finding his feet, finding his way around, and there you go. He's buzzing past him now. He's just kind of doing his apprenticeship once again, he really is. It's incredible here. It's something different. I can't explain to you how difficult this section is through Kurt Michael at pace to get from one side to the other. It really is. It's really, really physical, and I think later on in the week, that's when maybe some of these injuries will come into it. It's far from easy. Right, back to you guys now.
Thanks very much to Steve Plater there. So, I can tell you that we're now up to Balaf already, so sector 2, and Davey Todd has just edged ahead of Dean Harrison, with Jamie Coward third quickest. Of course, not all of the riders have made it through there just yet. In terms of the Super Twins and those riders that have decided to head out on a Super Twin, Barry Ferber, in fact, the quickest on his Super Twin, ahead of Mike Brown and Stefano Benetti. Here is number 20, that's Michael Evans. Another Maxman. Todd then quickest to Balaf, ahead of Harrison, half a second quicker. Let's see how the rest fare through there. Already Peter Hickman has moved up into 4th, and Jamie Coward third quickest. That's Coward that's been quicker than Hickman now through the first 2 sectors.
Yeah, good run for David Todd on that V2 Ducati. Out of Kurt Michael, and a fast run on towards Alpine Cottage and then Balaf Bridge, and it gets even quicker after that because Soby Straight is pretty much straight after Balaf within a mile or 2.
Now have a look at how it goes here for Peter Hickman on his triumph.
A little bit of a lift there on the throttle and then back on it straight away.
Harrison, everything tucked in on his CBR 600. That looks stable.
He didn't show off either, did he? Michael Dunlop gets himself tucked away nicely.
Yeah, you just wonder what Dunlop's feedback's going to be, of course, after his success on Yamahas so often in this class. It's such a different. I mean, it is different characteristics, isn't it, completely to the Yamaha?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly what Cam was saying about the Ducati, it's a big V-twin. It's a big capacity, nearly 1 litre. It's a 955cc V-twin. The characteristics of the power that it puts out should be mid-range, guts out the corners. My question mark would have been, has it got, because it's restricted really to stop it clearing off, because it would do that if you could run to the same regulations on the four cylinders. Whether it was going on the top end on these long straights here at the TT.
You're looking there at Dean Harrison, but the fastest rider to Balaf is James Hind.
There you go. What did we say?
On the small bikes,
yeah,
definitely got podium potential.
And on a short circuit, he's quick as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Dean Harrison is the first to Ramsey.
Yep. Jimmy Coward.
Nothing in it to Balaf. James Hind, look at that. We're going to head now over to look at James Hillier, number 5.
Swinging into Parliament Square. David Todd behind him. On that booming Ducati, you can hear it.
And again, a nice little reference there for Davey Todd and Jimbo Hillier up ahead of him.
Yeah.
It's Paul Jordan. It's Harrison quickest to Ramsey at the moment, but I suppose we now need to keep an eye on both Todd and Hind.
Correct. Yeah, David Todd very soon at Ramsey Hairpin, because we've seen him actually at Parliament Square, and then a little bit of a wait for James Hind.
It's Paul Jordan on his Jackson Racing, powered by Prosper 2 Honda. Shortly, Davey Todd it is that is now fastest then through to Ramsey. Dean Harrison second quickest, and then Jamie Coward. We await the arrival of James Hind. Jamie Coward has sort of been hovering about 2 seconds slower than Dean Harrison around the lap so far.
Just based on the body English of everyone we've been looking at on camera, I would say that Dean Harrison looks the most serious.
Yeah, and to be fair, he does. Anyway, that's a kind of his style, isn't it? You know, he's a busy rider.
This is Peter Hickman at the moment, fourth quickest to the Ramsey hairpin, as we now check out Michael Dunlop.
Really bumpy. That's called Crookshanks, that corner, and then Mayhill, it's really bumpy. White Gates is the left there, and then around what's called Stella Maris.
Your favorite corner.
Yeah, and it looks better now. It's quite smooth. It's bumpy before it, but then it gets really smooth around Stella Maris.
Dunlop's found a bit of time there. James Hind has gone second. So Davey Todd is first from James Hind and Dean Harrison and Dunlop. There's not a lot splitting those guys. Just had a bit of information passed to me by Phil. 127.019 is the fastest Supersport lap during qualifying, the opening qualifying session, we should say, back in 2023. So that's one to have a look out for.
Just Dunlop.
Yeah, Michael Dunlop. So switch over to the twins at the moment. It's interesting actually over at Glen Helen. Barry Furber was quickest to Balaf. First through Ramsey and Mike Brown.
We've got Hind up on the screen behind Todd, so you see some equalization.
Yeah, chopping and changing, but I mean, we all expected James Hind to do well, but I don't think anyone expected him to be knocking on the door immediately.
That's exactly. I'm just going to say, we expected him to improve a lot this year, still learning, and we know how good he is, but this is impressive.
This is Dom Herbertson, the ever lively Dom Herbertson, both on and off a motorcycle.
He's a good character, it's fair to say.
Yeah, big year for Dom. He entered the 130 club on the big bikes, of course, this time last year, and he's looking to take another step forward.
You know, and this is one of the more privateer efforts that we want to see these guys pushing to make that next step. You know, going down in the field a little bit, he's definitely a candidate for making that move to where he's going to have a ride that's provided for him.
Yeah, he's had some good support from the Burroughs engineering team, but you're right, there's 3 or 4 riders in that sort of Dom Herbertson range. Rob Hodson probably throw into that category as well. Mike Brown, that are going to be looking to make that next step, to maybe just try and make some of the factories think about what they want to do for the future.
Yeah, they're going to be the most hungry.
The 23 is Joey Thompson.
Yeah, York fella.
Best chance on Supersport. Oh, that's a bit deep though.
Displaying how not to do it.
22 is Julian Trummer, the Austrian.
Another Jackson, CBR 600 RR.
So Davey Todd is the fastest to the bungalow at the moment, but we await James Hind, perhaps the unexpected name. Michael Dunlop will be heading through there shortly. It's Todd, Harris and Coward, your top 3 up towards the bungalow. James Hillier currently in 4th. Josh Wilson, we've only had 6 riders head through to the bungalow so far as we watch Trummer around the hairpin.
Don't forget there's some 750 Suzuki's in there as well, right?
Hind is on one, I think.
Yeah,
James
throws a little flavor in the mix.
Hind is on a 750cc Suzuki, and they have another set of regs to make to kind of equal the performance of all the different kind of.
How did they ever figure that out?
They do though, and they do a really good job of it, and it works really well in British Supersport. The Suzuki is an older bike. It's quite old as a design. It goes back to about 2013 or 14. Does the G6R 750 still a cracking bike?
Michael Dunlop, we just seen going through the bungalow, and he's moved up to 2nd place, but he's immediately moved to the side by James Hind. It's still Davey Todd fastest. The sector times will update on your screen shortly, but I can see on our time screens here, as we look at Peter Hickman on your screen, as you can see there, half a second down on Davey Todd on this opening lap. To bungalow, it's Todd from Hind and Michael Dunlop in 3rd place.
You can see there that Michael's kind of still figuring out that chassis. He wasn't totally committed to the bungalow, so you know, if he's able to still be at the sharp edge without completely being comfortable, we're going to see high performance out of him.
Yeah, it's not an easy job riding these Supersport bikes around the Isle of Man. Less power means you've got to get through the corners a little bit quicker, and you've got to, in a lot of ways, be a little bit more committed actually than the bigger bike.
So it's Dean Harrison through Cronknamona, so we're getting close to the end of the first laps here of qualifying. Harrison, Coward and Brooks, in fact, all three through Cronknamona.
Okay, Scottish steep downhill to the Craig. Like I said, probably the most iconic vantage point, point of the TT course. Sat there and watched many times on that banking.
And it's no surprise through this mountain section, guys, to see that Peter Hickman has just closed that gap up a little bit as well.
As you do.
So number 16 now, Tom Herbertson. See how he gets on.
I keep thinking that's Mike Brown because of those are the colours that he ran last year.
He's doing all right, actually, there, Tom Herbertson, up inside that top 10. Dean Harrison flies past the grandstand then, and it's a 1:23.869. Our first qualifying flying lap from the Honda UK racing rider. We know that throughout most of this lap that Davey Todd, James Hind and Michael Dunlop have just had a little bit more. So are we going to see one of the fastest opening laps in Supersport? Davey Todd will be the one to look out for. Coward comes over the line, not far away from Harrison, at 1:23.3 for Jamie Coward. Josh Brooks at 1:20.1 as Dean Harrison heads off for his second lap then down to Waterford. Remember, these are from standing starts, and Davey Todd at 1:24.162.
Yeah, remember that's with damp patches in places, not many, but certainly under the trees and Glen Ellen where the sort of water's running back down the camber of the road.
Just tracking the speed there of Michael Dunlop, 124 mile an hour at that point.
You really get the feeling that anything can happen this TT. You know, it's not just foreseen. It's there's going to be some racing. It appears. I mean, I know it's the first day, but you just get the feeling.
Sounds good to me.
Signpost corner and then down towards Bedstead, so named because on the outside when that was a farmer's field, it was he didn't put a fence up, he just put a lot of beds to stop the cattle getting out.
So we're going to get some of the flying laps coming through here from Peter Hickman and the likes. And it will then be eyes on Michael Dunlop as well to see what they've done. How much time has Peter Hickman been able to make up through the mountain and the final sectors?
It's P3, isn't he?
James Hind, by the way, quickest through Cronknamona. So Hind has managed to get through. Has Davey Todd's... No, Davey Todd's gone through. 24.1, we already mentioned that. We're waiting now for James Hind as well. Over the line for Hind, a 24.19, a 124.19 mile an hour lap from James Hind. He goes through the grandstand as the quickest Supersport rider.
I'm loving this, brilliant.
We've been talking about Michael Dunlop, we've been talking about Peter Hickman.
To be fair, we have been talking about James Hind as well, plenty. We did expect him to do something, just not quite this year.
No, just not quite that. That's really impressive. Ian Hutchinson has completed his lap as well, 118.9 for Hutching. So over the line for the first flying laps, a quick update. It's Hind, Todd, Harrison. Both James Hind and Davey Todd separated by 0.2 of a second.
After 37 and 3/4 miles.
Sorry. You know, best Supersport to date, which was last year, is 128.0 mile per hour. So that's moving.
Peter Hickman, after one lap, is into pit lane. He's got a thumbs up, so seems like he's relatively happy. Of course, you're not really going to truly know what these guys have got until race week, but
This is early in the week.
it's Hind, Todd, Harrison, Dunlop and Coward, your top 5 over the line. But now we're starting the second flying lap.
So this will be Hind, no?
It is indeed.
Yep.
Hind out there then on that Suzuki GSXR 750.
Yeah, there's a couple running strong in British Supersport Championship.
Hutchie and Dunlop. No love lost between those two over the years. A couple of riders decided to switch over. Is that Hickman going out in his Super Twin, it looks like?
Yeah. Yeah, you say no love lost between Michael Dunlop and Hutchie, but actually there's a lot of respect.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. There has to be.
Correct. Yeah.
In terms of the Super Twins, there were only a few that went out earlier on. So Mike Brown has posted a 114.91 and Barry Ferber has just beaten that of 14.958. So there you can see the fastest laps. The green backing and white numbers indicate Super Twin machines, although you should be able to tell from the sound as well. Ferber fastest at the moment from Brown and Bonetti, but 1 or 2 now will be heading out, and there is the Swan Yamaha. It's the Yamaha R7 of Peter Hickman. Now when he rolled this thing out over at the Northwest a few weeks ago, he looked mustard.
We're in Michael Rutter retired at Crosby Church. That's fairly early in the lap. He's going to be able to get back from there. He'll need a lift though.
Yeah, certainly will. James Hyde, we're tracking at the moment the fastest rider so far on the opening day of qualifying in our first flying lap. It's just worth mentioning, and Phil Wayne here in the box just reminds me, a couple of weeks ago there was a nasty accident at the start of the British Supersport race involving Hind, and it was Joe Francis who got himself injured, and Hind was so lucky to avoid anything really bad there.
Yeah, that was exactly turn 1 off the start out of Donington out of Redgate, yeah. Not Hines doing. Joe Francis got either tangled up with somebody else on a little bit of high side, put him on the ground, and then Hines had no choice really than taking him. Couldn't avoid him.
Tom Herbertson has decided that he's going to come in and go out for another look on his Supersport machine.
Yeah, the same bike, so that's what you would call pulling him to make adjustments.
Just checking out some of the other lap times. So 22.9 from Connor Cummins. Not a bad Supersport lap for Connor.
Off the bat, no.
He's just saw Dom Herbertson, and a quick update on him. It was a 120.8 for him. To Glenn Helen, James Hillier, faster than Davy Todd on lap 2. That's impressive. On the Bournemouth Kawasaki. In fact, Michael Dunlop has just bettered that. Dunlop is managed to get through and past Hutchie, and is fastest to Glenn Helen now, 1.6 up on Hillier.
Yeah, you saw Michael Glen Ellen there going over the... What's happened there is, because the camber, you used to have camber falling away to that right-hand side, so when the water washes out that banking that holds a lot of water, even after it stopped raining, instead of it going into the gutter there, because they put nice camber, it's running back across the road, so it'll be really dry around it, but just the bits, the streams that are running across will be really quite wet.
Just hearing Marcus Simpson is off at Governor's Dip. Again, though, rider okay. Still that damp patch. This number 18, Sean Anderson.
Another Suzuki. Distinctive.
Funny,
it's quite old.
Funny just seeing those damp patches as well. You're seeing riders that obviously are well aware it's there now, taking varying lines through that.
Yeah, trying to get through. Yeah, you want to get turned early, sit the bike up, and then you can accelerate through it. If the bike's on the side of the tyre, you're less able to do so. So the Triumph coming.
Dunlop.
Yeah, distinctive sound. Is that triple?
At the moment, quickest. Hutchie's opening lap was a 118.907, and yeah, a good point being made by Philly's first flying lap since 2022.
Yeah.
And 2022 was a miserable year as well.
Yeah,
it did not go to plan at all, Hutchie.
He's been through a lot since as well.
He certainly has, yeah. Yeah. So as we track Supersport, it's Dunlop, Hillier and Todd through Glen Helen. And that's an impressive little one as well from Yeardsley, senior Max GP winner, so a newcomer, 16th quickest at 118.947 at his first flying lap.
Yeah, he's been around the TT course at the Manx, done really well. Son of Buddy Yeardsley, another successful TT rider.
Another
the
Manxman as well.
Yeah, the Manxman, yeah.
Yep. So on lap 2 for Supersport, to Balaf, Hillier goes through just marginally quicker than Davy Todd. Dean Harrison, third fastest with Coward to follow. There is Connor Cummins. Malenko by Engine Tonda.
Yeah, the 600cc four-cylinder screamer.
Paul Jordan went over the line, 121.7 for Paul. So to Balaf we've got Hillier, Todd and Michael Dunlop. So has Dunlop just lost a bit of speed there through that third sector. James Hind at the moment 4th quickest in that group. Quick check on the Super Twins. Yeah, and there's a good amount of riders that have gone out now on their Super Twin machines as well. So we'll try and get some standings for you on those shortly. 26 in the Supersport class is Sam West, which is good to see after his tip-off earlier.
He's got no ill effects from the off.
Hickman is now faster, no surprise there really, on his Super Twin machine, ahead of Ferber to Glenn Helen on his opening lap. Mike Brown 3rd, Stefano Bonetti is 4th, and Adam McLean is in 5th.
Yeah, Peter Hickman flying on that R7 Yamaha at the Northwest. The back looked really, really good. I expected him to go quicker around here.
30 is Alan Venter, the South African.
You're perhaps the only person in the world that calls him Alan. Maybe except his mum. It's AJ.
This is Peter Hickman on his Swan Yamaha bike that he used to very good effect over at the Northwest a few weeks back.
Yeah, parallel twin is the R7 Yamaha. You can tell it's really, really distinctive, is that sound.
We're waiting on Hillier at the moment, who's fastest still on this second lap at the moment in Supersport by the looks of things, which is encouraging. Javier Beltran there just having some final words with John McGuinness. Of course, they'll be getting ready for their big bike outing shortly. Qualifying for Super Stock and Superbike will be following this. The standings in Supersport at the moment: James Hind, Davey Todd, Dean Harrison, your top 3. The standings in Super Twin is Ferber, Brown and Bonetti, but Peter Hickman is out on his Super Twin bike, so his time might change. We're looking at him now. Couple of riders that have crossed the line on their Super Twin machines. Davey Todd has just gone faster again. There's a duck on the road there. Michael Dunlop just passes and says hello.
Yeah,
That's a little worrying.
it is. Yeah.
So we'll see how Dunlop's going to fare through his second lap on his Triumph 765. There were a few people that were wondering whether or not he'd make a last-minute decision to switch back to Yamaha in the approach to this.
It would not be the first time he's done that. And obviously he's not sort of signed up, so he's able to do that if he needs.
Moment in the Twins, Hickman's 4 seconds quicker than anyone else.
And again, not unexpected that. That's a Glenn Helen.
It's 1.8 seconds down for Dunlop in Supersport, so it's Todd just from Hillier, with Michael Dunlop in 3rd.
Ian Hutchinson. Up out of Parliament Square.
Hutchie's
Still looks clean.
really clean. 8th quickest he is through to Ramsey.
And doesn't look to be pushing.
No, and that's kind of what we expected to see.
Yeah.
I think that when he knew he was coming back to the TT, he might have initially had some ideas of maybe nipping at the heels of the podium, but this is just very much an experimental TT for Ian Hutchinson. As we look now at number 20, that's Michael Evans.
18 Sean Anderson and another GSXR Suzuki.
Evans who had a couple of good rounds over at the Northwest 200 on his Triumph. terms of Super Twins, you can just see there to Balaf, it's Hickman, Brown and Ferber, your top three. So we're about to get onto the mountain as well, where he's going to stretch his legs a bit more. Peter Hickman on his Swan Yamaha.
Yeah, this is Michael Dunlop at Guthrie's Memorial, using it all around there. Dean Harrison at the bungalow. Go on, rev it.
We'll get, it'll be fascinating to see what these times are on the second run, of course. These guys that have decided to do their second flying lap. The first was from a standing start. Be plenty of feedback. I just wonder whether Michael Dunlop will, well, he's decided to take 2 laps anyway. This is interesting. What a good group this is out over at the bungalow. 3 top riders in Supersport, all within each other's sights.
Yeah, David Todd, James Hillier and Jamie Coward.
And to the bungalow, it's close again. Hillier's just got that, he's got the sights on Davey Todd there, Mark, we just saw. Perhaps that sort of just shows in the times that we're seeing as well. He's not letting Davey Todd, I suppose when you've got that reference there, you know that Davey Todd is flying on the Supersport as well. If you can keep the hooks in, it bodes well.
And it looked like a lot of fun. Those guys just dicing around, the sun's out. I don't know if you noticed, but the trap speeds on the Ducati on the first lap was a few up on everybody else in a straight line. You were talking about top speed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a question mark for me. No, I didn't know, but it would appear it's got the top speed.
So to the bungalow for the Supersports, it's Hillier from Todd from Harrison. You can see here that we're about to get a lap time springing up for Peter Hickman. He's going to go to the top of that sector time list any second now.
Not the first time we've seen Swan colours on a racing bike, and I've always liked them. Really distinctive colours.
One rider that we've not mentioned so far, and I think we're going to be speaking a lot about him over the next 2 weeks after an impressive year here on the island, is another Maxman, Ryan Kringle, and he's down with Rick in pit lane.
Yeah, Ryan, it was a mightily impressive TT for you last year. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, last year went well, but obviously that's behind us now. We're here again, sun shining, so we had our morning session or afternoon session it ended up being. We've had a few niggly problems like everyone here will be, but we've rectified them now. We're just about to head out now for some more laps and hopefully take another step forward now for set up tomorrow.
It's now really just about feeling comfortable, getting the laps in and really bracing yourself as you head into the race week.
Yeah, so I'm generally not a road racer, so this is like my first time between the walls and hedges again, basically. So I've been lucky enough to pick up a 600 ride by the Parker Transport team this year, so my first time sitting on that bike was this morning going down Bray Hill, so I just need to get that bike to suit me at the minute. It's a very good little bike. It's just me wanting to be comfy. As far as big bike wise, I felt like I was at home on it straight away. We've had to make some minor changes for this next session, but I'm happy where I'm at, and it's day one. Just have a steady time and build from here.
Obviously the times are now coming in, but is it more about confidence really now for you?
Yeah, like I said, because I've not used this bike before, I've never rode an R6 before, everything's brand new to me today, so like today if I'm last in the time sheets, that doesn't matter. Like the big picture's next week, not today, so just enjoy it today, take the sun in, have some wax and have some fun.
Good man, go well.
Yeah, good luck indeed to Ryan Kringle. Despite being plagued with so many mechanical issues last year as a privateer working on his own bikes, his lap time was certainly impressive, and he's such a quiet and reserved rider as well.
Yeah, 126 on your debut, that is what's going on.
That's going some, isn't
it?
So we're getting our first laps in then. Through Crocknamona, Davey Todd was quickest, just over James Hillier and Dean Harrison. That's on their second flying laps. Here comes Hillier now. So we're going to get these laps in. 125.6 for Davey Todd and 125.4 for James Hillier over the line. That puts them 1 and 2 just ahead of James Hine. But remember, Hine's 124.19 was from a standing start. So the fastest lap so far in Supersport going to Davey Todd, who's riding a crest of the wave so far in 2024. Everything he's touched has turned to some sort of silverware.
Yeah, it has. He's very much a rider who rides on confidence, and he's got such a lot of confidence going. He loves every bike he's
Well, he's got
riding.
it back. I mean, I think he lost a fair bit of it last year.
No, he did. But it's at the minute, he definitely lost a lot. He had a lot of things go wrong last year. Not this year. From the get-go, his first test, he's looked good on every bike he's been riding this year.
It's very difficult, Mark, to read into your opening day and your opening night, but are you surprised with what you've seen so far? I mean, Dunlop obviously has got to try and get used to the triumph. I mean, James Hines obviously perhaps the headline.
I would say the only thing that's a big contrast is everybody seemed to be really acclimated to their bikes from the first minute last year, and now we're seeing, you can see it, Kawasaki, Triumph, Suzuki, Honda, and also Yamaha right on the same screen, which is pretty cool for the TT. It's not normally like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Dunlop has completed his second flying lap. Third quickest for Michael at 125.048, 124.4 for James Hyde. So he only found a little bit of extra time on his second flying lap. Here is Davey then.
Yeah, we touched on it before. Organisers doing a really good job to balance what are completely different layouts and CCs of bikes to make the performance fairly equal. It's really good to see that.
And you know they're all going to handle different as well.
Completely.
Complete different characteristics of power, of course, the delivery, and just like you were saying, they had to modify the Triumph chassis to get it from bike geometry. So there's a lot more to it than just, well, how much horsepower is it going to put out.
Absolutely.
Complete package.
Yeah.
Complete package.
Well, the Ducati V2 in British Supersport trim has naturally been a bit of a weapon. We've seen that at World Supersport and British Supersport.
Yeah.
But this is a different ball game.
It is, but actually the V2 cleared off in the World Supersport Championship last year with Beliga on board, and so it is a good bike. But you would expect it if the rules were the same, if the regulations were the same for every bike, the Ducati would be the bike to have, because it's nearly 1,000 cc's.
Yeah, it's not going to be labouring as hard as everybody knows.
No,
It has to work half as hard. It's going to be more reliable typically.
So if you are tuning in for the first time, we had sort of lengthy delays earlier on today, so we're heading into the evening. It's a beautiful evening here on the islands. Fastest being Supersport. Fastest timing. And Super Twins as well, going the way of, well, inevitably Peter Hickman. Baz Ferber at the moment has got that fastest time at 114.9. A couple of damp patches out there, inevitably from the rain that we had overnight and into the morning. As Michael Dunlop there feeds back some info to Steve Hicken after his first few flying laps on the Triumph. That'll be 3 laps that he's now completed on that Triumph.
Is he got an ice pack on?
Yeah,
That looked like
that's
it,
what it
didn't
looked like to me. Yeah.
And that's at the end of day 1.
Well, if you can ride through it, it's not going to be a big deal.
Davey Todd straight back out now, and he heads out on his Super Twin, the Dafabet Racing Kawasaki.
Do you know what? It's there. I don't know what's going to happen over it, but he didn't have his pit lane speed limiter on. It shot off like a bullet, then it slowed right down and he hit the button, so not being bothered there. I think he'll be warning this in practice.
Big smile from James Hillier there, enjoying his Kawasaki.
He enjoys his riding. In fact, he enjoys all kind of disciplines. He went and did and trained up and went from basically no experience to do the Dakar Rally, and that's an unbelievable challenge.
Genuinely.
And finished. Yeah, he's a quietly spoken kind of warrior, is James.
He looks incredibly happy and relaxed coming into this TT.
Yeah, I thought that.
He looked quite nervy at times in 2022 when he was riding for the Yamaha, but he looks a different character coming into this one.
You know, we see a lot of growth with the TT, a lot more professionalism and kind of a commercial value, but behind all the scenes, you got real men riding these bikes still. You know, they're not I don't know what the bad words are on this, so I'm not sure if anyway, you don't have a lot of wimps, in other words. They're still a man's man, and they're riding their behinds off.
Yeah, I think once you take it upon yourself to come and do this, whether you're a man or a woman, we've got some fast ladies around here, it is a commitment like no other in motorcycle sport, in my opinion.
And brave.
Yeah.
Brave women.
Yeah, that's
men and women. There's some amazing women there.
Yeah.
Here.
There's John McGuinness getting ready. We'll have Super Stock and Superbike qualifying on the way shortly. Peter Hickman has gone over the line and is fastest in Super Twins, as you would expect. 30 seconds quicker over the line than Barry Ferber, the next quickest in Super Twins. Quick check on the newcomer Yeardsley on his second flying lap. 120.776.
On a 600?
On a 600. Yep. Guided by Chris Palmer.
He's jumping back on his twin now, going down pit lane. It feels more like a shakedown, the 600 Supersport and Twins class as opposed to, but we're really looking forward to getting the big bikes out there next, because that's sort of the marquee stuff. This looks like a lot of guys are really just trying to feel their way through it. I think they're more familiar with the thousands. Am I wrong? Yeah, right. More often in BSB and whatnot.
His FHO leathers now. Josh Brooks just having a chat to Brains, as he's known. Mark Woodage, his crew chief.
Yeah, like I said before, look, just not be a sweat. He doesn't seem nervous. He's really enjoying that is a man who comes to the Isle of Man to do the TT because he enjoys it. He loves the challenge.
Boy, he went fast on that, what was it, the British bike with the Aprilia power.
The Norton.
The Norton.
Norton, yeah. Yeah. And that was an unproven bike. It was a fast bike because the engine had a lot of power. But it was unproven round here.
That was a V4 on top.
It was a V4, yeah.
One or two riders just popping out for a quick splash on their Super Twin bikes before this session ends and Superbike and Super Stock begins. There is Jamie Coward.
Looking pretty pensive.
So your top 5 in the standings for Supersport after the first qualifying session. Davey Todd quickest from James Hillier and Michael Dunlop third. James Hind, the surprise package, only 4.8 adrift in 4th. Dean Harrison was 5th. Jamie Coward 6th. Then it was Peter Hickman 7th. Brooks in 8th. Connor Cummins 9th. And Mike Brown in 10th. Let's get back to the guys in the studio. The Crow Show. Phil Crow heads out from pit lane. Number 9 there is Craig Neve on the Batham's Ales Honda. Josh Brooks is next out. Dunlop there. Out on his stock bike.
McCormick.
Yeah, Brian McCormack. 3/4 grids there for so often we saw last year bigger bikes. Michael taking no time at all. Let's see.
They've all got some, they've got some laps now, so it's not like it's a fresh deal. They're going to get on these bikes, they're going to go awfully fast, but you're also going to start trusting the tires and the lines. You're going to know where it might be more slippery or wet.
James Hind heading off after, a very successful qualifying in Supersport, where he was 4th quickest overall. Michael Evans now heading out as well. James Hillier, who's had a pretty solid day.
Yeah, yes. Clearly liking that little Kawasaki, isn't it?
Yeah, and fastest to Supersport right at the moment, tops the pile. Well, in fact, he was 2nd, wasn't he, to Davey Todd? Davey Todd was just marginally quicker over the line. Peter Hickman heading out on his stock bike. Remember, this is a brand new bike he mentioned earlier on to grace the first miles under its belt.
Yeah, he also said a lot of the setup from his last year's bike that went so quick was transferable, let's say. That he set you up exactly the same.
It helps to have such a cracking team with that.
Yeah, and it
went to the Northwest without them, didn't he? He had to work on some stuff, and
he did.
It didn't seem to go as easy as normal.
No, it didn't. I mean, to be fair, he's put the team together. He knows what he wants. Good engineer is Peter Hickman. Runs a performance shop in Louth in Lincolnshire, and does a really good job. He's probably the hardest working person in the paddock. He never stops. If he's not doing any of that, he's selling merchandise from his store.
Mini bikes, right?
Yeah, he pulls. Yeah.
All sorts.
Yeah.
And he sets off.
Hate him. No,
The 23 just flying through there was Brian McCormack, the Irishman.
Yeah, big lad as well.
This
the Superbike.
Harrison there or thereabouts on his Supersport. There's James Hind following Dean. James Hind, in terms of his Superbike trim anyway, is out there on Northlink's component Suzuki.
Yeah, white plates, it denotes a Superbike, but actually that'll be probably nearer to a Super Stock, I would have thought, or somewhere in between anyway.
There is Rob Hodson, and then number 5, James Hillier.
You did that one? That was number 5, yeah.
Davey Todd, just before this session started, went out on his Super Twin, and he was 3rd quickest through Ballath. So Todd will be a little late to the party in terms of getting out on his Milwaukee BMW. That's your sector times there from the Super Twins. So Davey Todd 3rd there to Ramsey. That's Hickman, Brown, Todd. That session took place just a little while ago. We'll start getting our first riders through the first few sectors in Superbike and Super Stock shortly. And who's going to get the ball rolling? As we mentioned earlier on, in terms of the big bikes, an untimed session it may well be, but someone had a stopwatch on Jamie Coward, who was into the 128s early on. You would think that some of those down patches aren't quite so bad. There's still that flag out just to let the guys know that there is a patch, but they're all aware of that by now.
Yeah, and this is where it is. Yeah, you can see the tyre picking up, and that's not so much a damp patch. That is where water's running across the track. It is very wet there, but it's only a very short little piece of track.
Some riders are going to be more comfortable than others. You know, those guys that race in the rain and the roads in the Northern Ireland and all that are going to have different sensitivities to a guy that really honestly never rides on the road with any kind of water whatsoever. I mean, coming from California, it would scare me.
Yeah, I mean, you can see most of the riders, they're actually sitting the bike up and not accelerating hard with the bike leant over on that water, because obviously there's less grip. Especially when they're going to have slick tyres on.
Right. You just never know when you see something shiny on the road.
I know. Yeah, that's yeah.
Like, come on, do I really need that in my life?
Sector time to Glen Helen then, and these standing starts. Michael Dunlop 4.4 quicker than Phil Crow. Brooks in 3rd and Dave Johnson 4th.
See Michael Sweeney just come by the camera there looking for him. I bet you he's stoked to be back here. We're going to see his pace increase.
Yeah, really good to see Miko Sweeney back in action here. We'll be looking to be nipping at the heels of the top 10 to 15 over the course of the 2 weeks.
Got his head down, Mr. Dunlop.
Let's head down to Steve Plater. The big bikes are on their way, Steve.
Yeah, just waiting on the big bikes to come through. You know, it's been really interesting with the Super Twins and the Super Sport. Some really good guys coming through. But obviously, it's getting a little bit cooler now, actually. I said earlier about the sea air and the sun's getting lower. Still good conditions. But obviously the guys are going to be pushing and they want to bang some times in. It's not obviously just all about the lap times in these first few sessions. They're all measuring fuel consumption. They don't want to run out, but you know, so they're pushing hard, and the guys in the paddock are doing a great job as well. I can hear some bikes coming now. I'm not sure who's first on the road, coming on my left hand side. But it's, I believe it's Michael Dunlop first on the road on the Fireblade. But we know he's been coming from his 23 and his 24 bike. The 24 bike's only just been built. It's been quite late to the garage. But anyway, I'm sure Michael will be working hard for everything. He'll probably come out firing an all four like he did last year and winning the first Superbike race. But it'll be a little tiger going hard at it. Right, back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Steve. So Michael Dunlop first on the road on his super stock machine. It's looking like most have opted to go out on their stockers to begin with. 2.3 up on Peter Hickman with James Hillier third. Here is Brooks, 5th quickest to Glen Helen. Road there, Dean Harrison. Just up ahead of McCormack. Now about to head through Michael himself. Don Herbertson has gone into 2nd place on his Super Stocker up to Glen Helen. We've not had all of the runners and riders through, but that's pretty
That's impressive.
Dom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the bike that Dom's going to be most comfortable on, isn't it? That and the twins.
Four riders out at the moment on their Superbikes. That's Dean Harrison, McGuinness, Hind, and Craig Neave. The rest out there on Super Stocks.
You got Dunlop catching McGuinness?
Yep, McGuinness and Dunlop. I'm just going to say that out into around Douglas Road corner and through Kurt Michael.
McGuinness is on a Superbike, of course, white plate.
Yeah, that's Hickman behind him.
Nathan Harrison.
Yeah.
He seemed pretty happy on his
Yeah.
return to the island after injury put him out last year.
Happy / giddy.
Yeah. That's sort of his general.
It is, yeah, he's a lovely lad actually, yeah. You've no problem keeping the conversation going when you're talking to him.
24 there is Paul Jordan, the Northern Irishman.
Yeah, he's determined to get going faster on the bigger bike. He thinks he's ready for that now, as Paul spoke to him this morning.
Harrison on the Superbike, as we said, there's only a few of them out there on Superbikes. Harrison is first through to Balaf ahead of Craig Neave. This is the Helicam with Michael Dunlop, fastest on the Super Stocker at the moment. To Balaf, he was 6.3 clear of Hillier, but Peter Hickman has just gone to second, but again 3 seconds down on Michael. Phil Crow fourth quickest at this stage, with Brooks fifth, and that's just through to Balaf. In terms of Superbikes, we'll get that. John McGuinness, 2/10 quicker than Dean Harrison, through to Balaf on the Superbike on the first lap.
Yeah, like you said, the most riders electing, most of the quicker riders going out on their super stock bikes.
Replay there of Dean Harrison and then Michael Dunlop. Getting plenty of air, looking pretty stable though.
You can see the rear tyre deflecting as it bounces when it lands.
So we'll get our first flying, well, we're certainly going to get our next sector coming up here for Michael Dunlop shortly. More than happy and comfortable.
Yeah, out on the brakes. Probably as hard as you're going to brake around here. Back wheel skipping off the bumps into Parliament Square. And then up towards Crookshanks, the Ramsey hairpin, and the mountain climb.
It's kind of mad to think that this is like the first lap of the whole fortnight of this picture. Yeah, we're going to see a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Dunlop is the first to Ramsey then. 10.52 for him. There's Dave Johnson and Phil Crow. Not a bad outing. He was, in fact, to Balaf. Crow was fourth fastest. It was Hickman. Mind you, Michael Dunlop's obviously already been through, so he's come through Ramsey. So
Yeah, Phil Crow's quickest lap was last year. Just a small amount shy of 1:30. He's a quick rider. He's Phil.
Shout out to Craig Neave, giving them a little carrot to chase. Number 9.
yeah, Craig Neave on the Bacon Dales, one of the first out actually, once this session started. Dean now comes through to Parliament. It's Dunlop fastest to Ramsey, ahead of Phil Crow and Josh Brooks, with Dave Johnson fourth. They are the only four riders that have gone through thus far. Dean Harrison will be joining them shortly though. Of course, Dean Harrison out there on his Superbike, so that won't flash up on that super stock. Lap time. Harrison 21 seconds clear of Neave, up to the Ramsey hairpin.
Anyway,
Yeah, it did look not slow but steady.
sometimes on the early days, you're just trying to get back to the pits to make that change that you knew almost instantly, but it takes 15 minutes to get back.
Exactly that.
Yeah,
So and that, in the old days, that used to be the case. You used to take a screwdriver or whatever spanner you needed to adjust the suspension in, you let it stop.
Lazy guys these days, I tell you.
And now what's wrong with them? Take your toolbox for yourself.
Oh, Hickman has already found a spot of time on his super stocker there.
It looks like he's trying as well, isn't it? Using a little bit more road there at second line.
Hundredths of a second up on Michael Dunlop to Ramsey hairpin. Of course, still the mountain to come for him. See how Nathan Harrison is faring as well. He'll flash up through to Ramsey shortly. McGuinness fastest in the Superbike still, ahead of Dean Harrison. So a steady start for Dino.
Yeah.
Maybe a little cheeky bragging rights moment there for John later on.
Mike Brown jumping on his Aprilia Superstock bike.
It's gone pretty well in Superstock trim over the last couple of years in British Championship.
Yeah, it's got some. It's an 1100cc V4, so it has got some kind of restricting regulations applied to it, because it wouldn't be quicker if it ran to the same regs as the 4-cylinder 1 litre.
It's also just unknown territory really for everyone involved there. Mike Brown on the Aprilia, full stop. The Aprilia going round the TT.
Yeah, I'll tell you what it is though, it's a really compact bike, is that, and it's able to be so because the V4 engine is just a perfect shape to put in a motorbike. It's just a block of engine. There's no bits sticking out the cylinders. It's narrow. Which is why the
Third quickest and Phil Crowe fourth. Two names I must confess you expect to see nibbling away at the top 10, but you don't expect to be nibbling away at the top 2 or 3.
You know, Dom's been improving steadily for a few years now, and I actually fully expect him to do good things in the near future.
Yeah, he got into the 130 club, didn't he, here last year? I think that was actually in the Superbike race, so the first big bike race, effectively.
Yeah, good lad Dom from up in Hexham in the northeast. Lives and breathes his racing. Does to most of these riders, to be honest. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he was making a living at one point. Tree surgeon.
Yeah, he is still doing it.
Yeah.
He is still kicking away at that. Of course, he's still in the memory of Chrissy, keeping on with the Chasing the Racing podcast as well.
And he's doing a fine job with it, I gotta say.
Yeah, me too. I think he
Just as we've mentioned already. Dunlop and Hoff, they're different.
You've a lot to do,
classes.
and it's even more busy. The new schedule for last year means the riders and staff and teams, mechanics are so busy now. Not a lot of time off. Of course, on race days they've got a warm-up lap now, so that's even
Unbelievable. I mean, we weren't talking about damp patches.
not at all. We're talking about melted tar.
129.032 then for Peter Hickman is going to be. He's looked in really good shape today on every bike he's jumped on. John McGuinness at the moment, still second quickest. He's just gone over the line at 127.646. So it's Todd McGuinness Harrison. Of course, Hickman has done
The mountain where the bikes are flat out, the helicopters can't really keep up by about 10 or 15 miles an hour. I agree with you 100% there, yeah.
third quickest in Superbike trim for over the line at 118 for him. And there is James Hillier, who was fourth fastest in Superstock. Let's remember, second fastest in Supersport as well. So Peter Hickman had anything happen to him in the closing stages of his Superbike lap or not, moves well on course to go ahead of Davey Todd, but he's tale of the conditions that we've got. You just overheard McGuinness mention a minute ago, bit patchy out
Yeah,
there.
that's right, yeah.
That'll be enough to...
Yeah, to knock the edge off, yeah, absolutely.
John McGuinness alongside me, John. How'd you find out there?
Yeah, it was good. It was good actually. A little bit windy, a bit blowy, and then just honestly, when you ride them superbikes for the first time, you can't get your breath on them. They are so fast. It's like being sat on a bullet, and you know, just they're getting out of your hands at times and stuff. But for some reason, I don't know, it's me getting old or whatever. But yeah, I couldn't quite pick the apexes out properly through some of the you know, the early starts of the lap. So I just took my time a little bit. But yeah, we're in the ballpark. Definitely. Yeah, good. Yeah.
You say you took your time